And we are now joined by CBS Sports NBA insider Bill Ryder and former NBA player and coach Avery Johnson. And fellas, I have one big question for you. Are you not entertained? I think game one lived up to the expectation. I think it succeeded the expectations of what we wanted to see out of these two teams. But I got to start with what we saw out of the Indiana Pacers, because at one point there late in the fourth quarter, they started to look a little dead in the water. Meanwhile, went on a run, had trailed by 16 points, come back, and then Tyrese Haliburton with this wild circus bounce that we saw. Coach, let's start with you. What impressed you most with the Pacers' comeback in this overtime victory?
Well, I think Nesmith's his three-point shooting in the fourth quarter. 19 points in the fourth quarter, made a big three when they're down by 5 to cut the lead to 2. This guy was incredible. And I just think overall the ball security by the Indiana Pacers. In an overtime game in the Eastern Conference Finals, I believe they only had 7 turnovers. That was unbelievable. But Aaron Nesmith, I coached against this kid when he was at Vanderbilt, of all places, when I was coaching in college. And he was a sharp shooter then. He's continued to build on that momentum of how he developed his shot in college. He was unstoppable. I don't know what the Knicks were doing in terms of some of their switches. They were a little bit discombobulated there late in the game. But ball security by the Indiana Pacers, knocking down the three-point shot. They made a higher percentage of their free throws. The Knicks missed 12 free throws, especially the one that OG Anunoby missed there at the end of the game, which would have given them a 3-point lead. So all hats off to the Indiana Pacers. They stole game one in the Eastern Conference Finals.
I'm with Coach. I mean, all hail Aaron Nesmith. What a performance. He was the catalyst for a push by the Pacers to score 20 points in 2.5 minutes in that fourth quarter. And here's the thing. Praise him. Praise Haliburton for what looked like the game winner and the early Reggie choke sign that turned out to be true. Sorry, Knicks fans. But the heroics mean with every hero you have to have a villain. You have to have a bad guy. And on this night, it's that Knicks team. You're in the conference finals. You haven't been in the NBA Finals in a generation. Coach is right. If focus, play defense, you cannot squander a 16-point lead at home in the Garden in game one. And look, it's not a secret that the Pacers are a team that make comebacks. It's not a secret they can rain threes if you're not locked in. So amazing performance by the Pacers. Avery is 100% right. Like Aaron Nesmith, that is one of the, I mean, he went full Michael Jordan. That I still not get in my mind around the fact that was reality, but it's also just such a brutal way to begin this very long series. But for the Knicks, I mean, talk about an opportunity given away. And it felt like Haliburton beat you in fourth quarter, but then his toe was on the line. So you had a second chance not to screw this thing up. And they obviously did in overtime as well.
Second chance not to screw it up. But also, if you recall going back to game 2 of the last series, you had Haliburton who ran around and hit the top of the key, hit another game winner against Cleveland. So seeing some remnants of that, or some familiarity, but not quite enough with his toe on the line. But guys, you talk a little bit about there's the Pacers stealing game 1. You said that, Coach, but Knicks came in favored in this one. You mentioned it, Bill. They were up by 16 in the fourth quarter. Now, currently, the Pacers minus 168 to win the series. Coach, swinging this back your way, what does this win mean for the Pacers, who looks like things are stacked up against them coming into this one? They're on the road playing at a tough MSG, because let's be honest, these Knicks fans are excited for what they're seeing out of this team. But what does this win mean for Indiana?
Indiana's playing with house money right now. I've been in this situation before. Whenever you don't have home court advantage, you can go and steal game 1, which is the easiest game to steal in any NBA playoff series. So the Knicks, they're feeling really good about themselves. They have nothing to lose in game 2. I think for the Knicks, 7 turnovers by Jalen Brunson. That's an extraordinarily high number. So he's going to have to improve there. So defensively, Indiana really feels good about not his 43 points, but how they forced him into those turnovers, which led to points off turnovers. So if I'm Indiana, I'll go back. If I'm Rick Carlisle, try to tweak a couple of things. Miles Turner, they did much better when he wasn't in the game. the Knicks actually played better. They were on a 14-0 run there late in the game without Jalen Brunson in the game when he was in foul trouble. So if I'm Indiana, I'm feeling really good right now.
You're absolutely feeling good, but I feel like what we saw, not necessarily with the Circus 3 or 2 that happened, but when we see the Pacers this postseason, we've seen them come back in several instances in some of these games. I like to call them, maybe they're looking like the comeback kids, but Bill, what have you made of the Pacers having so many comebacks this postseason?
Yeah, and by the way, the Knicks too, and I think the lesson applies here to both teams. You can't take for granted how well you're playing, how well things are going, because look, it was early in the game. Pacers got off to a nice start in this game, and they kind of let their defensive energy lag a little bit. The game was close, and all of a sudden, the Knicks took the lead, and they took, and Coach is right, OG Anunoby really was the guy that pushed a pretty nice run in the fourth quarter when Brunson was out with that foul trouble, and it felt like the game was over, and you're right, Kiana. This is a Pacers team that's been there, that's done that, like the Knicks to get here, have had mounted these remarkable comebacks. And so for me, I know that there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of pressure on both these teams, especially the Knicks. But these are both teams that are capable of being outstanding defensively, but have not been consistent in that respect. For the Pacers, they were just bad defensively and just bad in general the first 25 games of the regular season. But after that 25-game mark, they're a top 7 defense going all the way back to mid-December. And we know the Knicks and the guy that coaches them are usually going to focus on defense. They've got great perimeter defenders, but they were inconsistent at times over the regular season. They were not a top 5 or top 10 defense in the regular season, although they played at that level in this postseason. So for me, the big takeaway is, yes, both these teams are capable of comebacks, and certainly the Pacers did a miracle magical. They earned it one again. But it's also just a reminder that both these teams have to be focused on defense for 48 minutes. That's something they didn't do over the course of the entirety of the season. And I think whoever advances is largely going to be the team that summons the best version of themselves defensively because both these teams against an opponent who's capable of making comebacks, even if it feels like the game's out of hand.
Hey, I want to stick with that word capable, Bill, because you used that and we saw that the Knicks were capable to extend a lead or maintain a lead even when they didn't have Brunson on the floor while he was dealing with foul trouble. They went on a 14-0 run with Brunson sidelined. But meanwhile, you go on to lose this one. You allow the Pacers to come back there in the final minutes of this game. I want to know, Bill, how bad of a loss is this for the Knicks? And I say this because my co-anchor over here, Hakeem, said this game is a series killer for the Knicks. Bill, do you agree with that statement?
Well, look, I'm Team Hakeem. So, look, I don't like to argue the Hakeem, but it's a really long series. And I think both of these teams are outstanding basketball teams, and it felt like 6 or 7. But there's no doubt that if you're the New York Knicks and you get 40-some points from Brunson and you have this 16-point lead with not a lot of time left in the game, and we're into the fourth quarter and you lose it, you are squandering an opportunity and a win and home court advantage against a very dangerous opponent. And so that's it. I mean, it is again, I'm just going to do sorry, Knicks fans, the choke sign that Haliburton did a little too early. That it is that. But these series are long, and I'll just remind people that if you go back to most of the championships the Warriors won, if you go back to the series that Hakeem, your Cleveland Cavaliers won, I'm talking final series. Avery knows this. He coached these teams. Teams that win series and win championships will often lose by 15 or 20 or 25 points over the course of a series and or have heartbreaking moments like this. So this doesn't mean the series is over, but it does mean the Knicks need to lock in, figure it out, I think be better defensively. Avery's absolutely right. You've got to get fewer turnovers from Jalen Brunson, even though that Pacers team, when they were focused defensively, were really good. The series isn't over, but it's a squandered opportunity for New York against a really good Pacers team, and that's a problem.
I have the Knicks winning in 7, and I'm sticking with it. Right now, it just makes that prediction much more difficult, especially when you lose at home. But the Knicks have been resilient all season long. I think the key is going to be who's going to be the X factor. We know what Jalen Brunson, how he's going to deliver on a consistent basis, but who's the X factor for the New York Knicks? Who's going to step up? Is it Mikal Bridges? Is it OG Anunoby? Who's going to make shots when Jalen Brunson especially get trapped? We saw those traps, at the end of the game, and he didn't handle those traps well. But when they're playing 4-on-3, 3-on-2, 2-on-1, can they make the necessary plays? The second, and I think even a more valiant point, is, Indiana is 1 or 2 men deeper than the New York Knicks. How's that going to wear on the Knicks as this series moves on? because the Indiana Pacers have 4 guys off their bench that can score in double figures. The Knicks don't have that. That's why they rely on Jalen Brunson so much.
Coach, you talk about this Pacers team being deeper than this New York Knicks team, but one thing that the Knicks did have, and that was Karl Anthony Towns. And I feel like when we watch these games, sometimes we suffer a little bit from recency bias. We look at what we saw in overtime and what happened there in the fourth quarter, but I feel like Cat has been a big part of why the Knicks had such a great, at least 90% of that game. But how big will he be of an impact, or how big does he have to be in order for the Knicks to, like you said, close this thing out in 7?
Well, I think Bill and I both, we don't have a problem with Karl Anthony Towns offensively. I think, can he be the last line of defense for the Knicks in the interior when he's in a shot blocking situation, or the ability to take a charge, grab rebounds? We know what he can do on the offensive end. He's a pick and pop 5. He's much better playing, driving the basketball, especially against mismatches. But, when Jalen Brunson get beat on defense, and we know they're targeting Jalen Brunson, that's why he was in foul trouble tonight. They're going to try to, run an offense. Rick Carlisle kind of sort of borrowed my bad defender offense when he took over for the Mavericks. You're going to always try to get the bad defender involved in the offensive set. That's what he's doing. They took advantage of Jalen Brunson on a defensive end. And when he gets beat, can his teammates cover for it?
Yeah, I mean, I can't. That's perfectly said. I 100% agree with Coach. And I'll add this. Coach brought up the fact, Kiana, that there's going to be X factors in this series. And Jalen Brunson's got to be great because the Pacers are a difficult opponent. Karl Anthony Towns has to be great because the Pacers are a difficult opponent. For me, the X factor for the Knicks is OG Anunoby. When he plays at a high level, the Knicks go to another level. When he does not, they do not. He's been somewhat inconsistent over the course of the series. And you're right, Kiana. You don't want, not to have too much recency bias, because something I think we'd be talking about if the Knicks had held on to win the game, and Coach brought this up, it was OG who really pushed the Knicks to that nice, huge lead that was eventually squandered when Brunson was out with foul trouble. And so Cat's going to be Cat and get his, and he's certainly got to play better. Not better. He's got to just be at a level defensively that's better than wins against replacement, better than the average defender. He's got to, and he has at times. Brunson is Brunson. For me, because of the depth that Avery's talking about, and that's a real thing the Pacers throw at you, you're just going to need to get contributions from more places. And I want to see OG Anunoby, if you're a Knicks fan, be that guy in 2 or 3 games. And by the way, he was in this game, and they squandered that effort.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you guys are both mentioning, and Coach said, for Cat, yeah, you're having these great options offensively, but you have to be that last line of defense for the Knicks, but wasn't quite that there as the Pacers close this one out. As always, Avery.
Hôm nay mình sẽ hướng dẫn các bạn làm quả dâu. Bây giờ mình sẽ bắt đầu làm nhé.